Hello, ladies and gents. I am back. I'm hoping you've already switched on and listened to or watched the video that we did with Sam Mullen today, the Milner and Musgrave show, where we talked about Hugo Ekitike and Newcastle United's interest in the young French forward. We spoke about why the deal is sort of perfect for Newcastle United, why it's a gamble, why it's a risk, but why we hope it gets done, simply because he would be the perfect competition for Alexander Isak. We also played down any fears that Alexander Isak would be sold and Ekitike would be coming in as a replacement from this summer, simply because Newcastle United have made it clear they want the two to play alongside each other. Since that video has gone live, it has emerged that Frankfurt have rejected an initial bid for Ekitike by Newcastle United, believed to be in the region of around £80 million. Whether that's been rejected because of the structure of the deal or whether it just comes under a little bit of their asking price, it's a little bit muddy in terms of clarification on that. He's set to have a release clause of £86 million, and Frankfurt are notoriously good sellers from their point of view, and they're probably holding out for that. I still think there's a chance that this deal could be done. The only worry for me is whether Liverpool will now turn their attention to Ekitike because Newcastle United have made it clear this afternoon that Alexander Isak is not for sale. That's right, Liverpool have made an approach for Alexander Isak, and they've made it known to Newcastle United that they want to buy Alexander Isak, or at least they did before Newcastle United told them to hit the road. Now, Alexander Isak is a tremendous player. His goal record since joining Newcastle United is absolutely tremendous. 62 goals in 109 games, 11 assists. No wonder he's attracting interest from some of the world's best football clubs. And Liverpool's interest in him has been well known. It's been well known for the last couple of years, and it's only going to grow the more goals he bangs in. Of course, he scored the second goal in the Carabao Cup final, and Liverpool were really showing just exactly what they would be getting in terms of Alexander Isak. But the reality is this: Newcastle United do not want to sell their star striker. Newcastle United are in complete control, I think, when it comes to this saga, if you want to call it that, although I think their firm response to Liverpool's approach probably puts to bed any potential soap opera when it comes to Alexander Isak, unless he knocks on the door and asks to go. But as it's understood, he's happy in Newcastle United. He's settled. He's absolutely adored. He's looking forward to the new season, even more so given that his fellow countryman, Anthony Elanga, has just signed in a £55 million deal. That's a sort of ambition that top players like Isak, like Bruno, like Tonali are looking for, and it's hopefully only going to get better. Yes, they might miss out on Ekitike, but they will move hopefully to another top target that can share the load when it comes to scoring goals alongside Alexander Isak. Newcastle United want to offer Isak a new deal. It's reported that Arsenal's interest ended when they were told by intermediaries that Isak was set to be offered a new lucrative deal. Now, that hasn't emerged, that hasn't been signed, that hasn't been agreed as far as we know, but we know Newcastle United want to get Isak tied down to a longer deal with a pay rise. And this interest from Liverpool, this reported approach, will only heighten, I think, the urgency to get that done. But once again, 3 years left on his current deal, summer of 2028. Newcastle United, I don't think, are going to be worried at all. They've been firm in their response to Liverpool. That will send messages out across the country, across Europe, to any other potential suitors who think they can come in and unsettle Alexander Isak. Newcastle United hold all the cards. If a team wants to buy Alexander Isak, 120 million is what Liverpool reportedly value him at. You're having a laugh. £120 million. When you consider some of the fees that have been paid in recent years, 100 million for Jack Grealish. Liverpool have splashed 100 million plus add-ons for Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen. Alexander Isak is a better player than both of them at the time those deals were done. I mean, his goal scoring record, as I've said, means he is worth much more than £120 million. It's an absolute laughable amount from Liverpool to even suggest that that's enough to get this deal done. For me, if I'm Newcastle United, if I'm Eddie Howe, if I'm the ownership, I'm not picking the phone up from Liverpool for anything less than £150 million. And I personally wouldn't even accept that. That would be an unbelievable amount of money to see a Newcastle United player sold for. But Alexander Isak is worth at least £150 million. His goal scoring record is unbelievable. His pedigree is unrivaled, and he is most certainly within the top 2 or 3 when it comes to the best strikers in the world. He's probably a better all-round player than Erling Haaland, if we're being honest, and we know how good Erling Haaland is. So if Liverpool or anybody else wants Alexander Isak, be prepared to pay big money, closer to £200 million, in my opinion, than 100. I know people will laugh at us and get in the comments and say evaluations are all over the place, but that's how good he is. And should the worst happen, should Newcastle United, for whatever reason, have to sell Alexander Isak, then it's a test of becoming good sellers. And like I say, everything is in their power at the moment. But should the worst happen, then they have to get the best value from that. And 150 million at least, I don't think is too ambitious. He is that good, and he's only going to get better, but he's going nowhere. That leads us on to the chase for Hugo Ekitike, and it looks now like Liverpool will turn their attention to the young French forward. And some people might say that it was all just a bit of gamemanship from maybe agents and what have you to get Liverpool to the table when it comes to Ekitike. I don't think that was the case. Newcastle United have been in talks. They've lodged a bid. I think they've tried to, again, get him for under the valuation than the maybe Frankfurt were wanting. I mean, we know that release clause, but as we've seen with kudos to Tottenham, you don't always go in for that release clause. As we've seen with Anthony Elanga, the price on the table isn't necessarily the price that you have to pay. Nottingham Forest wanted £60 million, and Newcastle ended up getting Elanga for initial £52 million. Not a big saving, some might say, but I think it shows the want and desire for Newcastle United to get any bit of money off any potential deal, which all counts when it comes to PSR. And look, Liverpool, Newcastle United, head-to-head for Ekitike. Who is Ekitike going to choose? I mean, he's already had this dilemma once in his career with Newcastle United, and he ended up choosing PSG. Maybe he might think, do I reject Newcastle United again and it goes wrong for me? Who knows? Look, Liverpool is Liverpool, and it's difficult to sit here and say that he wouldn't choose Liverpool. I think there's a space there for a striker to go in and really own that number 9 shirt. We know Nunez is probably going to be on his way. He really hasn't cut it since his move to Anfield. He's pretty dire, to be honest. I haven't been impressed with him at all. You've got Gakpo, who is a decent enough player, but can he lead the line? You've got Mo Salah, of course, who's signed a new deal, but he plays out on the wide. I think Hugo Ekitike could really wear that number red, or that red shirt of Anfield really well. And of course, you've got the loss, the irreplaceable loss of Diogo Jota, who died earlier this month in tragic circumstances. So it's not only a search for an out-and-out goal scorer, it's also got to be a delicately handled search given the circumstances when it comes to Jota as well. But it is difficult to sit here and say that if both teams manage to agree a price, that Ekitike wouldn't pick Liverpool. But you never know. He's clearly interested in Newcastle United, and that much is for certain. The project is there. Champions League football is there. Potentially, the prospect of playing alongside Alexander Isak is another one that could interest Ekitike. You've got a midfield full of stars as well. You've got some legends of the French game who've played for Newcastle United. David Ginola, Laurent Robert, may be able to put in a good word as well, and just say, look, this is the place that you become a legend at St James Park at Newcastle United. That noise when you pull on that black and white shirt is unrivaled. When you pull it on in a Champions League match, it is just something to savor. You could bottle it. You could be an even richer man. He still could be tempted by a move to Newcastle United. It's just about how much now Liverpool want Ekitike, and whether they do what Newcastle United haven't done and just go straight for that release clause and say, there's 86 million, let's get this deal done. And I think if that happens, if they seize the initiative, and look, Liverpool are in a better position than Newcastle United. Newcastle need to get every single penny out of a deal. They need to make sure it's value for money. And anywhere they can scrimp and save a little bit, all adds up later on in the window. Liverpool, meanwhile, can splash, 86 million with ease. If they were going to splash 120 million on Alexander Isak, if Newcastle were going to allow it, then 86 million is nothing to them. So it's all about the position when it comes to finance and the PSR, and Liverpool are in a better position than Newcastle United. And if they really want Ekitike, they'll just go ahead and pay the fee. That lends itself to a question about Newcastle United. How much do they want the young man? No, they want him a lot. They like him. We know Eddie Howe. We know Steve Nixon followed his career for many, many a year. They thought that they had that deal done before he joined PSG. There won't be too much difference from the deal they've put in to that release clause. Potentially, they could hurry back with a second bid and get it restructured in a liking to Frankfurt, and hopefully get the jump on Liverpool. But one fears within the next 24 hours that Liverpool potentially could have this deal sewn up for Hugo Ekitike, which would be good news for Newcastle United. I mean, the last 24 hours on social media has been absolutely wonderful to see. Loads of positivity because Newcastle United have been ambitious and seemingly moving with real speed to get this deal done. And then they've, just fallen short with their bid from the Frankfurt point of view. They would then have to move on to other targets, and obviously, Johan Wissa was one name mentioned. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is another name that won't go away. But what a fall that would be from Ekitike. I mean, it was such a change in pace from those names to Ekitike, and then we have to fall back down. It will feel a little bit like you've been punched in the gut, but we just don't know what's going to go on. It's all about how much these teams want these players, and if Newcastle United can make the numbers work and at least get around the table, then there's no reason why they can't persuade Ekitike to join Newcastle United ahead of Liverpool. It would be some coup. It really, really would. But look at the players they've signed. I mean, Sadio Tonali, captain AC Milan, they persuaded him to join. Kieran Trippier, he just won the league title with Atletico Madrid, playing in the Champions League, persuaded him to join. They can do this. They can sell the club. And with Champions League football as well, it's an easier sell. And they're bringing in the right players. Alanga, quick, best years ahead of them. If they can just get 2 or 3 more in the centre back, and then James Trafford, they're going to have a really, really good season. I know people are a little bit frustrated at how things are going so far, but Alanga is a great start to the transfer window. Okay, it's taken a little bit more time than we would have liked. They get James Trafford over the line. It's another good signing. Then if it's Scalvini or Mark Gay, and don't write Mark Gay off, brilliant addition at centre back, and then they can get that striker, whether it be Ekitike or another target out in Europe, or if it does have to be Dominic Calvert-Lewin, that will sour it slightly. But don't write Newcastle off in the search for, or in the race for Ekitike. They can persuade him to join this club, and they can persuade him to be part of what is only just beginning in terms of a journey. Now, Liverpool obviously streets ahead in terms of their project, but they also have a lot of players up front, as I've mentioned: Nunez, Gakpo, Salah. They have players that he would have to really push and rival. He comes in, you would say second choice, but really, we know Eddie Howe wants to play him alongside Alexander Isak. So the offer of first team football and a Champions League club might be the key selling point here. We will wait and see, but I think this one is going to be fast moving, and it's a fluid situation, but it just comes down to desire and want. And I guess the best sales pitch, really. Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen when it comes to Newcastle United's search for, or bid for, or race for, or what's the right word, want of Hugo Ekitike. And what do you think is going to happen with Liverpool's interest in Alexander Isak? Is that it for now? Do you feel them coming back in January? Do you feel them coming back in next summer? I think next summer is really, really interesting. I think Newcastle have to have a proper storming season to guarantee Isak stays. Anything less than Champions League football and another bit of silverware probably means he's on his way. But again, there's no reason why you couldn't persuade Isak to sign a big, big lucrative deal and keep him here for many years to come. But that's to worry about in 12 months' time. Right now, it's all about Liverpool being told no when it comes to Alexander Isak. Door shut, on you go. But it might mean they go after Newcastle's top striking target this summer of Hugo Ekitike. It's going to heat up even more. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. See you soon.